Greetings everyone, I am Lunar Kitten Zero, and today we are checking out Lion L. Johnson, The Night King of the Imperium by Astartes Anonymous. I am excited to learn more about 40k, and the rabbit hole has been interesting so far, and I expect this to be no different. But before we hop right on in, I want you guys to be aware of a new little feature I've added to my avatar, because a lot of times there will be things on the right side of the screen and my character is blocking it. I now have the ability to go poof, ta-da, and I'm on the other side. There is a bit of a delay. It does take a few seconds for me to come back out of the shadow realm and, be on this side. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that if I disappear on your screen, that is why. I'm just switching back and forth so that you guys can get the full picture. Because before you wouldn't have saw that beautiful ground right there. Now you can see it in all its glory. But without further ado, let's hop right on in and learn about Lion.
To be alone for great lengths of time can be one of the most soul-crushing experiences for an individual to ever go through. To be alone and hunted by beings that wish you harm is an experience that most would describe as the stuff of nightmares. This was the setting in which a young child found himself from the first moments of his life.
Okay, so he was alone and a wild child? Interesting. And it seems that Astartes Anonymous is going to hop back and forth. So I won't keep flicking my character back and forth, but I will try to move out of the way as much as I can. But if we back it up here. So yeah, we got this whole wild child and the crazy hair, and I'm not even gonna lie, I immediately thought the Jungle Book for some reason. Maybe I just really need to watch that old cartoon. I don't know. And I mean the cartoon, I don't mean the live action-ish CGI thing. I like the cartoon. But, okay, so I'm assuming that how this happened was when the children of the Emperor, the sons, were taken and thrown across the universe. He ended up somewhere alone in the wild, Tarzan style. That's how I'm interpreting this.
Was the setting in which a young child found himself from the first moments of his life. The dark gods of chaos knew that he must be brought into their fold or destroyed, else he would become an eternal thorn in their collective sides. Unto the forest world of Caliban this son was given, and unto the beasts of the forest he was thrown. The child grew and learned quickly, as all of the Emperor's progeny did. The trees and beasts were his teachers, and only by wit and trial and error did he learn what was safe to eat and drink, and what he could kill. The boy became an apex predator in a world home to beasts that could tear a man apart with little effort. He had to. Within him was an inextinguishable survival instinct, not that of the prey species that fled at the slightest sign of danger. No, this was the instinct of one of those that sat atop the food chain. Those that knew that for themselves to live another day, each day had to be something else's last. Each task had become deliberate, economical, and efficient. No movement was wasted, no effort expended without purpose. The boy mastered his mind like he had mastered the forest and could give any task he chose his complete focus. Before long, the beasts of Caliban, touched by the warp though they were, knew to fear this new monster, a boy merely 10 years of age. Then they came. Creatures whose skin shone like moon atop hooved prey animals. From the safety of the trees, the boy observed them. They had killed one of the beasts of the forest and were making noises between themselves. They looked much like the boy did, but still different. The caution that he had ingrained within himself since his first moments of life bled away like grease under hot water. He wanted to know more about these strangers that were so much like him. Perhaps they could show him. The creature that the boy would come to know as Luther approached him using his hand to brush along.
Hold on, okay, a couple things. Okay, so he grew up in the forest, very efficient at it, survival king. It really sounds like Tarzan. That's all I can see. I'm even hearing the Phil Collins music in my head. It's Tarzan. Now, Luther here. Why do I know that name? Maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but could have sworn they said there was a guy, I thought the name was Luther, who was running from a bird. Maybe it's not this guy and I'm confusing it with somebody, another Luther. Or maybe I'm thinking Lex Luthor and I'm just completely off and my brain is somewhere out, like maybe I'm thinking not Spider-Man, oh my god. Superman. My brain is working, I swear. I'm trying to take all this information in and I think I'm mixing myself up. But I swear maybe when I heard Lion's story before, this was mentioned a little bit, and that's probably what's hitting the brain cells there a bit. But I'm digging the medieval knight vibe here. I don't see any tech on him other than maybe whatever that little bit of a device is on the arm, but curious. But yeah, I'm completely getting a Tarzan feel from this, 100%.
Of grimy blonde hair away from the boy's face, revealing emerald eyes, the color of the forest. Luther could not have known it at the time, but he had just named the boy who would become the Lord of the First Legion. He had named him Lion L. Johnson. As with all the Primarchs, the young boy grew quickly in both wisdom and stature, and gained the favor of those around him. He was described as having a beautiful singing voice, and could mimic the call of any animal he had heard. But as it is with all Primarchs, he became most well known for his super...
Now, okay, I'm gonna have to say it, because it popped in my head. He has a beautiful singing voice, and I mentioned Phil Collins earlier, so now in my head, he's singing. It's alright. I'm fine. I saw that movie not too long ago, so I mean I've seen it a million times, but it's fresh in my mind. It's probably what's causing it. On top of that, love this picture. Very, very nice artwork. I think this is probably when he's supposed to be clearly much older, because he does look a bit like an old man here a little bit. Maybe he's supposed to still be young. Maybe it's the beard that's giving me the old man feel. But love the scenery, and I love the lion on the shoulder. Very nice. Again, artwork for 40K is always beautiful.
Superlative skill as a warrior and as a strategist. Quickly rising through the ranks of the Order, his new adoptive family, his steadfast, quiet confidence and indomitable will garnered him a reputation that spread far and wide across Caliban, drawing recruits in numbers never before seen by the Order. With Luther as the face and the heart of the movement, and the Lion as its ruthless right hand, no longer did the common man need to live in fear. At the instruction of the Order, the old traditions that reserved battle for nobility were halted. Although this departure from the old ways caused a wave of dissent amongst the ranks of the more conservative knights, the Order was rewarded with swollen barracks all year round. Within a decade's time, Lion L. Johnson and Luther had seen the Order grow from a small force into a grand army, and the desire for a better life for all of Caliban's inhabitants was on the rise. The two leaders of the Order decided it was time to rid their world of the scourge of the beasts. With blade and torch, the Knights of Caliban swept across the forest world, slaying hundreds of the abominations and perishing in their own hundreds with each pelt taken.
Okay, so how I'm understanding this, there's so much that's being told here. Ended up on this world, grew up as basically a wild child, and got found by Luther. I think I'm saying the name right. And together they built a very strong force. Stronger than I guess that's ever been on this planet. And what was it? Brain work. Somebody wasn't happy about them changing the rules of battle, I guess. I'm not really, that part he skimmed over real fast, so I'm not exactly sure what the unhappy part there was about. But now he's taking this group that he's amassed, and they're wiping out what we saw with that one cat thing with spikes. Are those warp touched creatures, or are they just mutated creatures of this world? Somebody in the comments let me know if they're just mutated monsters of this world, or are they warp touch, or are they some other evil god touched, monster cat monster thing. I don't know what to call them other than monster. But okay, so I'm assuming he's going to be successful in that. I mean, he's got a heck of a group, so I don't see how he could fail it. Unless somebody, I have a feeling, I'm going to theorize here before we continue, that somebody's going to come down this planet and mess some stuff up. Like, he's got a good thing he's kind of built up now. If I know anything so far about 40k, is as soon as you got things going pretty good for yourself, that's when 40k goes, yeah, thought. And it changes it. Just sweeps that right out the window on you.
Though many of the surviving warriors began to grow weary of the incessant slaughter, the lion remained steadfast and resolute in his purpose. To him, leaving such a monumental task unfinished would serve only as a waste of lives.
Okay, before he continues on that,
To him, leaving
that right there, let me move out of the way. Look at that artwork. Again, love it. The lighting, the coloring. And the thing is, what makes this so powerful is that the way the light is hitting that armor as they're peeking around the wall. You got that crack of lightning in the sky, the rain. It's all great. And what is so amazing about art is if you really look at this, there's not that many colors being used, and yet it tells such a great picture. Like, it just shows you don't have to use every single color in existence to have amazing art. This is blue and yellow and a little bit of orange. I said the word correctly. And might be a little bit of brown, black, obviously some white for highlight. But it's very simple colors and very few. And again, I love stuff like this. I always find it just so beautiful to look at. But enough of me gushing over artwork. Let's continue learning about Lion. And apparently some of his people are not happy about the continuously dealing with the monsters.
such a monumental task unfinished would serve only as a waste of lives his men had so bravely given in pursuit of a dream that they themselves would never live out. Eventually, the last beast was slain, and Caliban knew peace for the first time in its history. It was during this bloody campaign that Luther, who had long been considered the greatest of a generation, began to see that the people had found a new being to idolize. The lion cared little for the praise and adulation that was heaped on him by the common folk, but begrudgingly accepted their accolades, unaware that this was planting the seeds of jealousy in his adoptive father. In truth, it was a wound dealt in ignorance. For Lionel Johnson did not see the spark of pride that burned within his adoptive father ignite into jealousy in the face of his triumphs, a wound that would fester in the years to follow. It is possible that, had the Emperor of Mankind not arrived on Caliban, that Luther would have forgotten his jealousy in time, choosing instead to make peace with his adopted son. Alas, the galaxy will never know what might have been. For from the skies of Caliban came giants in power armor.
Okay, so maybe I was right. Maybe this is the Luther that does not like Bird. But okay, so first of all, this picture is cool. Black, red, and silver. I know I love silver and black, but I am a sucker, as you guys can tell from my outfits. I like red. Red's one of my favorite colors too. So this picture is just gorgeous. That is some sharp, beautiful armor. But so Luther sounds like the guy I'm thinking of. But I didn't realize. Okay, so he's the adopted father of Lion here, and he got jealous, I guess, because he got popular. Is that how I'm understanding it? Well, not just popular. It's just the peasants or the poor people or just the people in general were looking up to this guy almost in a worship type of sense that I'm getting. And he didn't like that. He wanted it to be about him. I guess I can kind of understand that, but it's interesting that, he says here that maybe in time he would have gotten over the jealousy, but that doesn't happen because, like I said, somebody was going to show up. He hit peace. He put the planet in peace. Of course, now the Emperor's going to show up like, "Where's my boy? I'm here for my kid." It's like, I was doing fine. Just leave me alone. But no, Dad's making me go home. But so, yeah, I had a feeling this was going to happen. Let's find out what's. Like, I have a bad feeling it's going to get worse.
Armed with better firearms and finely crafted blades. They had informed the Lion that they were merely a vanguard force for the Emperor, the ruler of all mankind, and that this Emperor was on his way to greet the grim Lord of the Order. Having just freed their world from one form of tyranny, the knights under Luther and the Lion were extremely suspicious of this warlord from the stars. And though Lionel Johnson impressed upon them to use caution and to wait until they knew more, a contingency plan to assassinate the Emperor had begun to take shape. Upon meeting the Emperor of mankind, the Lion quickly pledged fealty to the Imperium, recognizing that his destiny was far greater than he had previously thought. The giant soldiers that had landed on the planet were a special breed of warrior known as Astartes, or Space Marines. And these particular soldiers were members of a force known as the First Legion. L. Johnson was told by the Emperor that he was a being known as a Primarch, a gene-forged creation of the Master of Mankind himself, and was being given command of this legion of transhuman demigods. Upon taking command of this superlative fighting force, the Lion immediately reorganized it to more closely resemble the structure of a knightly order that he grew up with, forming the first Hexagrammaton, and the order's penchant for secrecy and covert ritual found its way into the new legion's doctrine. Though the plot to assassinate the Emperor never came to fruition, thanks to the bravery of a young knight named Zahariel, the seed of suspicion that had been planted before the Master of Mankind's arrival had firmly taken root in the elder Calibanite knights and flowered into the thorny vines of mistrust and malcontent. Chief among these silent dissenters was none other than Luther himself. By this time, he was no longer looked up to as a father figure or even a brother in arms. No. By Luther's reckoning, he had been firmly passed by, his voice barely more important than a subordinate's. Gone were the days when the boy he had found in the forest would ask him the best way to hold a sword, or how to say something to make his intentions clear. This was the time of Lionel Johnson, the Night King of Caliban, a slayer of beasts and now lord of the premier force of the Legiones Astartes. Luther was quickly being left behind.
Okay. You're just old and you're old news, buddy. Get over it. That's all I could think is I know that's not what's going to happen. I have a feeling this is going to get really, 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 really bad now because... Okay, so he already was mad that the people were that the people loved Lion. That annoyed Luther. And then the Emperor shows up and goes, "Oh, by the way, here's a legion of Space Marines. You command them because you're, one of my boys." And he's over there like, why did this little punk kid just get a promotion and I didn't? What the crap? I can kind of see where he's come from, a little bit. But, I don't think he thought things out too well. Especially the whole... Now, this part I was a little confused on, so please clarify in the comments. The assassination, or the plan that was being created to assassinate the Emperor, was that Lion's men acting on their own, or were those men under Luther acting that way because Luther wanted it? I don't think Luther was assassin thought at that point. But whose men were those? Were they Luther's men or were they Lion's men? I think they're Lion's men, but I'm not positive. I got a little confused there. But this is I think I'm gonna find out why Luther's running from a bird.
Leaving the forests of Caliban, the newly minted Dark Angels Legion took to the stars from whence they came in even greater numbers than when they had arrived.
Oh.
The Lion, Luther, and many Calibanite knights had undergone the procedures to become Astartes or pseudo-Astartes themselves, following the Lion to prosecute the Emperor's Great Crusade. Over the course of this Great Crusade, the
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Look at that. That is awesome. I don't know if that's from a game or if that's some. It looks like a figure with actual cloth. I'm not sure, or whatever it is. I like it. Maybe it's all the red cloth coming off of it. It just looks really good. But he has some kind of little glowy lamp there. If you guys know what that thing is, let me know. I'm always very curious about the different parts of the armor whenever I see things like that. And is it just a lamp, or does it have some special use? I'm going to assume it's special use, but it's definitely interesting. Yes, I was distracted by the shiny. It's shiny. It got my attention. But I do like this. This is really nice. And I'm going to, again, I really feel like we haven't hit the worst of the worst yet.
Dark Angels undertook many campaigns, one of which being the brutal Rangdan Xenocides.
Oh.
So terrible were the losses that the Dark Angels Legion suffered that other legions such as the Lunar Wolves, Ultramarines, and even the Iron Hands Legion began to overtake them in prestige and numbers.
Oh.
Nevertheless, the Lion never lost the sense of pride he held in his legion, and the sense of pride he felt for himself, often considering himself to be a breed apart from his brothers. In one instance, this resulted in a call to humility from the most unlikely of people, his brother Fulgrim, the Phoenician, as seen in Rogel Dawn, the Emperor's Crusader.
Okay.
A sensible proposition, except that 7th Legion battalions have already cleared orbit over the northern strike area, and we're ready to begin mass deployment, not just an insertion attack. My 40,000 legionaries hitting the ground will break their resolve within minutes, forestalling any need for wider commitment and risk.
Unacceptable! We have not bloodied ourselves in the void to relent at the edge of orbit. My ships are breaking through toward the equatorial defense stations, which will eliminate the threat to both your attack and that of the Phoenicians' legion. My knights will be first on the surface, but I assure you that we will share the battle honors.
The Tri-D projector stuttered as another feed came online. Fulgrim of the Emperor's Children greeted them with a brief smile.
Apologies for the delay in my participation. I believe my equerry has been fighting a valiant vanguard action on my behalf.
Okay, he just sounds like he's up to something. I don't know, maybe it's just the voice acting, but I'm just like, I don't know, that doesn't sound like a voice I should trust.
We are at an impasse, but as the most experienced Legion commander here, I feel that
I have waged war as long as any of my Primarch brothers. If you see fault in my strategy, say thus. Do not hide behind a veil of seniority. For what reason should the first not abide by their name?
Fulgrim's manner did not change.
Okay,
His
point.
features set in polite attention through the Lion's outburst. When it was done, the Phoenician pointedly turned his gaze to Rogel Dawn.
I feel that the Imperial Fists should lead the attack. The Phalanx is by far the largest vessel here, even bigger than our Gloriana-class ships, Brother Lion. As a display of Imperial authority, its arrival and the descent of 40,000 legionaries sends a message that cannot be ignored. Rogel is entirely correct in his assessment.
To split our attack is to risk a harder drop for my legion and yours. The loss of momentum could be disastrous to a swift victory if the inhabitants are not so impressed as you say.
Fulgrim turned the intensity of his attention to the Lion. Slender.
Okay, so this conversation is, I think, a little above my brain. But what I'm understanding is Lion's a little annoyed that everybody's going ahead of his group, and he feels that his strategy of them being the first should therefore go first. I think that's how I'm understanding it. And this white-haired guy who, I forgot what his name is, is basically saying that the size of their armies and their ships will intimidate and be a strong force to show instead of, well, his smaller group. Think that's what I'm getting? It's like I said, it's a little above my head. I was never super great at strategies, and that was a lot of information being thrown there in that conversation. But I don't know. I think I have to kind of almost agree with the white-haired guy, because the show of force, like, that is intimidating. But the other guy does make a point that if they're not intimidated by your numbers, then it was all for naught, because now your strategy failed. You were hoping they would back down because they saw your sheer numbers. It didn't work. I mean, it didn't exactly fail, because if you got that many people versus maybe they got less, you could just overpower them, I guess, if you're lucky. Or if you're just, well, I don't even have to say luck. They're usually super skilled, so I don't know, maybe the confidence is a bad thing. The problem is I just can kind of see both sides of this debate here. Not really sure where I fall. Mainly because I don't know I'm not understanding what they're up against. So, I'm a little confused.
Fingers steepling to his chin in a pose of respectful thought.
My brother, there is a very important difference between conquest and compliance. We are all warlords here, but more than that, we are the Emperor's Primarchs. When he dispatched us on this venture, it was with the explicit task of bringing worlds to compliance, however that is achieved. Societies broken by war need fixing, requiring resources that are stretched as the Great Crusade continues to expand into the furthest reaches.
That was my thought. We must give the enemy opportunity and encouragement to capitulate. Our reports showed that their fleet was their greatest strength. Without it, their resistance will be short-lived. I have not fought as many campaigns as Fulgrim, and few have been bloodless, but as the newest member of our Brotherhood, perhaps your perspective has not yet widened from the wars of your homeworld, Brother Lion.
All eyes, those of Primarch and Legionary alike, were drawn to the Lion, whose lip curled and brows knotted. For a few seconds he said nothing, one hand moving to the pommel of a great sword at the waist of his ebon black warplate. The touch of it appeared to reassure the Primarch of the First, and he straightened a little, the tension flowing from him just as his lion's mane cloak hung from his shoulders.
Forgive my impetuous words, my brothers. I meant no offense. And if my eagerness to prosecute the Emperor's will has caused such, then I apologize.
Okay.
You are correct. I lead a legion of the Emperor as I would a company of knights, but it is a far greater power I now wield. On Caliban, an opponent would not be undone by the mere unsheathing of a blade. But the galaxy at large is not Caliban.
We are here to unite humankind, not enslave it. Some may only come under the threat of the blade, but others will join freely.
The weapons of the Dark Angels were greater than all other legions, for their armories were flush with every manner of implement for the destruction of the Emperor's enemies. Ancient horrors of old night, retained from the Unification Wars of Terror, priceless suits of unique Terminator armor, and even relics from the Dark Age of technology, including the Exindio-class battle automata. These giant battle robots were described as a maelstrom of churning claws and gouts of arcane flame and radiation blasts. Unlike the clumsy automatons of the Mechanicum of Mars, these death machines are of strictly Terran design, being, in truth, leashed and enslaved abominable intelligence. The Dark Angels kept these mechanical nightmares under lock and key and under constant surveillance for signs of rebellion. Even if one of these ancient machines were to break free of its captors, it could spell the doom of millions.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this now. After having that back and forth, he basically apologizes for coming off as eager and rude, and that he realizes he can't lead his group like he does his knights. And then the one dude, the white-haired one, is pretty much saying that they're there to unite humankind either by, force, or they'll join freely of their, because of what they can offer. Which I'm guessing is why that was called the Crusade of that. I'm not 100% sure there. But, okay, so it's already showing that there is a divide kind of happening. The others are, I want to say stronger, but more or less they're more getting more popular and they're getting bigger. And I'm not sure if Lion is annoyed or jealous of that yet, or just really wanting to prove himself. But it feels like he's almost going his adopted father's route in the whole, like, maybe starting to become envious of the other groups. Not exactly there, but very, very closely similar, because he really wants to get out there. But maybe that's just the warrior calling in him. I'm not really positive. But, the artwork is cool, and I paused on a really cool transition here, and I love this shadowy picture, and then image of a person, and then you got the background. That's accidental artwork layering there, and I like it. It's really nice. I've been trying to talk, but my brain is so distracted. Again, bright colors, just the way they blend. Plus, who doesn't love a good either sunrise, sunset? I'm gonna assume sunset, but I mean, ignore the burning fires down below. It's still a pretty picture.
The lion was nothing if not stubborn to a fault. Often this resolute attitude would result in him getting in his own way, his detractors capitulating to his overwhelming personality. Not so for Leman Russ, the Wolf King of Fenris.
Okay, hold on.
Personality. Not so for Leman Russ.
Leman Rust here. Now, that was the image I saw, this one here, when I was drawing my chibi one, which I should have brought him, but I can't help it. I like my Sanguinius. But this is what I used as a reference to try to understand how to draw it and get the armor color right and the bronze and mark. It's surprisingly difficult on a little chibi. I still love this picture. It screams, like everybody says, Viking. And you got the wolves. The way it's incorporated into the armor is just, especially that symbol on the chest. It's actually one of my most favorites. And I'm not sure what that writing is along the sword, but I like that too. Just not sure if it actually says anything or if it's just like rune markings of some type. All of it's beautiful, and I love it.
The Wolf King of Fenris. When the lion broke his word in the name of expediency by killing the planetary ruler of Dulan, that Russ himself had marked for death, the wrath of the Primarch of the 6th Legion burned as hot as a Fenrisian winter runs cold.
Wait,
Primarch
what happened here?
Fenris. When the personality. Not so for Leman Russ, the Wolf King of Fenris. When the lion broke his word in the name of expediency by killing the planetary ruler of Dulan, that Russ himself had marked for death, the wrath of the Primarch of the 6th Legion burned as hot as a Fenrisian winter runs cold. After
Okay, so I think I stopped on what I'm about to say. So, if I'm understanding what I just heard, the lion killed a guy in the name of efficiency and, like, I'm just getting rid of this guy. And Russ was over there like, hold up, that was mine. You kill stealing jerk. I marked that. I called dibs. And you took it. Which is what started, I guess, from this picture. They don't like each other. It seems like the lion has this talent to make people not 100% like him. Not on well, I guess you could say killing this guy was on purpose, but definitely taking his dad off, or his adopted dad, was not on purpose, I don't think. So, interesting. And this picture is kind of making me giggle because it really shows their personality so well. The smugness of Lion because he knows he's good at what he's done, and he's proud of everything he's achieved probably up to this point. And then you got Russ, who's like, you're a kill stealing SOB. And is not happy. I just hear little wolf growls in my head, like, you know. I don't do a good growl, but that's what I hear. It's little growls.
Bearing one too many insults from the lion, Russ let his fury get the better of him, and the two brothers fought. Their duel was long and bloody, taking longer than any mortal men could last without collapsing, and destroying the palace of the dead planetary ruler in the process. Eventually, when the demigods were at their limits, bones fractured, armor damaged to the point of breakage, and enough blood spilled between them to drown a man, Leman Russ laughed. He laughed like he had never laughed before, his howls echoing across the ruined walls of the palace. What was the purpose of all of this? After all, they were both sons of the same father and generals of the same army. In light of the foolishness on display, what was there to do but laugh at the pointlessness of it all? He never saw the lion's fist that knocked him unconscious, breaking his skull in the process. This battle, while devastating for both Primarchs involved, eventually led to a bond of brotherhood between the Marines of each legion. Even to this very day, whenever the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels meet, an honor duel is held between chosen champions of each chapter in remembrance of their fathers.
Okay, so basically they beat each other to a bloody pulp. And then Russ started laughing because he realized, dude, we're equally matched. This is stupid. And the other guy was still a little mad about that and knocked him out, breaking his skull. And from then on, they were like, we're brothers. We're good with each other. And their legions, which always mimic their Primarchs, to this day, every once in a while they meet up and they're like, you want to throw down? And they're like, yes. And then they beat each other up, and then they go and have, I don't know if they drank beer, but they go and probably kill some heretics. That's kind of what I'm understanding, and I'm actually loving that. I think it's really cool. The bonding over a fist fight, gotta love it. And this artwork right here, just they're about the duel. You can't see it, so let me move a bit. But yeah, he's got his weapon there in his hand. That turn of the body, yeah, they're ready to definitely fight. And then what you got over here, let me get out of the way again, is on the far left, you see one guy with the sword up, and he's cheering it on. He's ready for this fight. And I wonder if the fight's just like their fathers. It's futile in the end because they're evenly matched. Also, the double-headed wolf thing on the backpack, whatever those are called, I like that. Though the skull on the other armor with the jetpack is also really good too. Yes, I know I'm not a fan of green, but 40K has been showing me things that lets certain colors slip by. Like me wearing a gold character on my head, since I like silver, but Blood Angel's gold is beautiful. And in this case, this light green with the white, it really sings to me. But yeah, I love that they just meet up and punch each other. That is just too fun.
After the triumph at Ulanor, the greatest battle seen thus far against the Green Skin menace, the Emperor revealed to his Primarch sons that he would be stepping down from the Crusade. Instead of striding alongside his sons and soldiers on the field of battle, he would be returning to Terra, the cradle of humanity, to work on a project of utmost secrecy. While the Primarchs and Astartes were crestfallen to lose the Master of Mankind, the Emperor decreed that one of the Primarchs, Horus Lupercal, then Primarch of the Lunar Wolves, would be elevated to the new position of War Master, with this new mantle of responsibility.
Yeah, give him a job. It's not like that's going to be a problem or anything. No. Nope, it's fine. It's not like, the guy on my head has ever had anything bad happen when, dealing with Mr. Shiny Top here. No, it's fine. No, it's gonna work out really well, and it's gonna be sunshine and kittens, and it's going to be fine. Yeah.
Horus would have all the authority of the Emperor of Mankind himself when it came to matters of war. All forces, Primarchs, and Astartes would be his to command, and the conquest of the galaxy would be prosecuted at his word. While the newly appointed War Master was positively received by many, the Lion felt that he had been passed over, and that he would have been a better pick for the position.
You know what? I think
Nevertheless,
he would have
the
been.
Lord of the First begrudgingly accepted Horus's new status during a conversation with his father, the Emperor, as seen in Lionel Johnson, Lord of the First.
You were not the first of my sons to reclaim a place at my side, but your tally of victories is second to no other. Even Horus looks upon them with envy. Horus inspires, Magnus enlightens, Lorgar illuminates. Robute raises an Imperium in miniature that celebrates his name and yours. I have left as many worlds behind me as any two of my brothers combined. But I fear that darkness and ash will be the legacy I leave to your Imperium.
The Emperor considered long, as he often did before giving an answer.
In the time of the Egypta, there was an empress named Hatshepsut. By all accounts of her that survive, she was an equitable and proficient ruler by the standards of her time. She rebuilt her land in the wake of war and occupation, erecting great monuments and bringing prosperity to her people. She reassembled the Egypta's navy, using it to reestablish their old empire, and launched military campaigns against the nations who had once been their oppressors. A legacy whose parallels are not hard to see. And yet, those who came after did all within their power to ensure she would have no legacy.
Yeah.
Her name was chiseled from every monument, her every deed and triumph stricken from public record. Even her body was removed from its royal tomb. Why, if her reign was so equitable? Because those who succeeded her desired it. Because sometimes what comes before is too troublesome to be paved over in rockcrete, to amend with a monument to compliance or a golden aquila on an imperial flag. Sometimes it is enough only that it be destroyed, that no trace of it but darkness and ash be left to endure. And yet history still remembers this empress. Emperor Thutmose III did not have the Dark Angels. It is a pity that your campaigns kept you from the triumph,
Said the Emperor, referring to Horus Lupercal's ascension to War Master.
Your presence was missed by your brothers. Horus, in particular, spoke to me of his regret.
Sure.
He knows that I would have attended had I been able. You are troubled. The Imperium celebrates, but its triumph is empty. The galaxy is not won because Horus has his great victory.
Yep.
Recall my words to you. Ulanor is just another victory. Then why the pageantry? Some men demand such pomp. They cannot accept the end of one era and the commencement of another without an occasion by which to mark it and give it meaning. Laurels must be given, honors and fair titles invented so that they may be bestowed upon favored generals. Some men need recognition.
The Lion felt the Emperor behold him, his firstborn son.
Some men do not.
Okay. So, what I'm getting from this, because that conversation was a bit long, is that it felt like there was a lot of foreshadowing in that too, is that from the story of talking about the Egyptian or the the queen or whatever from that time, whose name was stricken from records, even though they did a good job, because the person who followed after it was basically jealous, is that because Lion is so good at what he does, the Emperor knows it, and knows that he doesn't really need the recognition to continue to be great, whereas it sounds like he's saying Horus is a big baby and needs to have recognition to feel like, I did awesome and Dad praised me. That's how it sounds. I know somebody's going to type that I got that completely wrong, because I know a lot of you like to get very mad at me when I grr at Horus, but I'm just saying that's how that sounded in that conversation. That it almost sounded like Horus is jealous of the Lion because the Lion is really good at what he does, and Horus is used to being the favorite child and is not enjoying somebody else creeping up on that status. I could be completely wrong. I get that. Maybe I completely misinterpret that, or maybe I'm just using too much knowledge of what I know will happen, that it's blurred that conversation into something it's not. But either way, I do feel like at the end he was just trying to say, you don't need the accolades to continue to be awesome, because you are awesome. At least that's how I'm understanding it. I don't know if that's going to be a bad thing for Lion. I feel like Lion's level-headed enough that he's going to be like, okay, you're right, I don't need the recognition, but it still kind of sucks that I didn't get the promotion, but you're right, I don't need the recognition. But I have a feeling his being really good at what he does is really going to bite him in the butt soon here. Either from Horus or from Horus, and I think Luther is still around, so somebody here is going to probably knock him down a peg because he is good at what he does.
During the compliance of the world of Sarosh, the Lion, much like his father, would experience an assassination attempt of his own. Not wanting to join the Imperium, the Saroshi nobles had a nuclear bomb on a shuttle being used to meet with the Primarch upon his flagship, the Invincible Reason. This attempt on Lionel Johnson's life was only foiled because Luther and Zahariel happened to be in the hangar inspecting the very shuttle that the Saroshi nobles arrived on. At this time, Luther's jealousy nearly got the better of him. Despite Zahariel's pleading, he continued to hesitate. This could be the chance to take back the glory that was rightfully his. Without the Lion in the way, perhaps Luther could become the leader of the Dark Angels once again. This could be the chance for Sir Luther of Caliban to show his quality.
See, I told you. Okay, that's another fade-in screen that has this strong thing. But I knew it. I knew it had to be. See, I was just wanting to blame Horus, but I knew Lucifer? Yes, that's his name now. Luther is going to be a problem. The man cannot let it go. It's like you're washed up, dude. Well, not exactly, but just get over your petty jealousy here. Seriously. Could be so much more if you just let it go, but no. So yeah, I'm at least I know I was right, and I'm still thinking I have to be correct on that. He's the one that runs from the bird, and I'm going to assume it's because of something he's going to be doing probably here.
The thought left him as quickly as it had arrived. What was he doing? If he did nothing, then not only would the Lion die, but himself as well, and hundreds of Calibanite Astartes. With the help of Zahariel, the two were able to jettison the shuttle into the cold void of space. However, the ensuing explosion would cause great damage to the Invincible Reason. and would kill several dozen crew members. The Lion was furious, and in his fury, he questioned Luther as to how something like this could have happened. Unsatisfied with the answers Luther provided, the Lion made the decision to split the Legion down the middle and sent all Dark Angels of Calibanite descent back home, along with Luther and Zahariel. While this was officially to have Luther raise a strong reserve of Dark Angels to ensure that the Legion remained at full force, Luther himself could only view it as exile. Much like how the Primarchs felt abandoned by their father, the Emperor, Luther and the Calibanite-born Dark Angels were being abandoned by their father in turn.
Okay, hold up. First of all, Gothic castle look. Love it. Now I'm a little annoyed at Lucifer. I keep going and call him Lucifer. Luther's reason. He thought, even if it was a brief moment, he thought about, I could let this just kill that guy because I'm jealous of him. Now, the fact that he didn't, you could argue, well, see, he's still good, but exiling him made him bad. No. Dude's already was heading down that road. He was just looking for a trigger to really just make what he wanted to do justify it. And I have a feeling he's going to do something. He went back with those other Dark Angels, and I know, again, not because I know he gets chased by a bird, but I just know that somebody with that type of jealousy, and I can't stand somebody who was my weaker being now better than me. Like, the apprentice has now become the master. Master not happy with that because they always want to be the master kind of thing. Yeah. Nothing good comes of that. And he's taking this as an insult. Like, I saved your life. And I, did this. And it's like, yeah, but you're clearly starting to let things get bad because of your emotions. Now, it's sad that he kind of exiled everybody of that descent back with it. It's not an exile, but, sent them back. It does look wrong. But, I get the strategy. We split it in two. We make it stronger. You build up a giant force. I build up a giant force, and we put them together, and boom. But doing that where they're all from the same place and sending them all together, it does look like an exile. And yeah, that's going to cause way too many bitter feelings. He should have mixed other guys into it. That might have lessened the effect. But I guess he was trying to think efficiently. I'm not positive, but yeah, this is not gonna go well.
The Horus heresy set the galaxy aflame and tore the Imperium of Man asunder. Half of the Primarchs and their legions threw their lot in with the new War Master, Horus Lupercal. However, not all of the traitors openly declared for the arch-traitor. At least,
Hold up. Wait.
The Calibanite-born Dark Angels were being abandoned by their father in turn. The Horus heresy set the galaxy aflame and tore the Imperium of Man asunder. Half of the Primarchs and their legions threw their lot in with the new War Master, Horus Lupercal.
Yes,
However, not all of the traitors openly declared for the arch-traitor. At least, not at first. After securing powerful siege weapons from the world of Diamat, the Lion turned them over to Perturabo for safekeeping. Tragically, Perturabo had already turned traitor unbeknownst to the Loyalists, and using the weapons the Lion had given him, would take part in the horrific Istvan drop site massacre. Horus knew that he had no hope of defeating the remaining Loyalist legions if they presented themselves as a cohesive, unified force. He would have to separate them and destroy them piecemeal, leaving the prize of terror for last. To this end, he directed the Night Lord's Legion to the eastern fringes of the galaxy to prosecute the Thramas Crusade.
Okay, I just back up the bit. Hold on.
Them and destroyed them piecemeal, leaving the prize of terror for last.
Yeah,
to this end, he directed the Night Lord's Legion to the east.
That, again, love it. Love the artwork, and Night Lord's aesthetic is always just really cool. I'm looking at all the colors, the armor. Again, it's always with fire. Why is that? But Yep, I like this battle scene. It's so good. This artwork is always so good.
Western fringes of the galaxy to prosecute the Thramas Crusade, a bloody 3-year genocide across many loyalist worlds. At the invitation of Conrad Kurz, Lionel Johnson journeyed to the barren world of Seguelsa, where the Night Haunter attempted to regale the Lord of the First with a prophecy about the Dark Angel's future. The Lion was unimpressed and losing patience with his brother's theatrics, and their meeting eventually broke down into vicious single combat. The Hunter fought the Haunter in a storm of speed and steel, neither Primarch able to score a decisive blow on the other. While Conrad was cursed with the gift of foresight and could predict the Lion's strikes, the Primarch of the First's instincts were so sharp that they bordered on precognition themselves. Sword strikes that appeared to move one way would suddenly veer off to the side, confounding the Night Haunter's predictions. Their duel ended in a bloody stalemate, Kurz impaled through the spine by the sword of Corswain, who was nearby, and the Lion suffering from a lacerated throat. Both Primarchs were dragged away by their sons to lick their wounds and plan their next moves. The Thramas Crusade continued.
Okay. So, a lot of stuff's going down. I hit my mic. So, he goes up against the Night Lords. Again, another stalemate when two Primarchs are fighting. And they took a lot of hits and then had to be dragged away by their own legions. That's interesting. So much is going on. The Horus Heresy, apparently a lot has gone down. And yes, I will eventually get to the Horus Heresy. But, all this guy wanted was some peace and quiet on the planet he was on. And now he's in this whole bunch of mess. And I have a feeling we have not seen the last of Luther. He's probably going to be in here too. So let's see what's happening here.
Continued following the pattern of Lionel Johnson hunting his murderous brother across the stars. Always one step behind the Night Haunter. After all, how was he supposed to catch a man that could see the future? After learning of a device known as the T'Chulcha engine that could help him coordinate much safer and faster warp jumps, the hunt for Conrad Kurz resumed. Eventually, during one of these jumps, the Invincible Reason fell victim to a demonic incursion. Discovering that these creatures of the warp were particularly vulnerable to the attacks of Psychers, the Lion reinstated the Dark Angel's Librarius, ignoring the Edict of Nicaea, set by the Emperor of Mankind himself, much to the dismay of one particular commander, as seen in The Lion.
Asmodeus, did your powers destroy the enemy?
The former librarian said nothing, but looked up at the Primarch and nodded.
Is this true?
The Lion stooped low to lay a hand on the shoulder of Asmodeus.
Were your powers capable of harming our attackers?
From the warp they come, and with the power of the warp they can be punished again.
He met the Primarch's gaze for a moment, then looked away.
Brother Emil is right, my liege. I have broken the oath I swore.
A grave crime, and one that I will be sure to prosecute properly when the current situation has been resolved.
Wait, I'm misunderstanding.
From the warp they come.
The Lion stooped
Say
low to
this
lay a
again.
hand on the shoulder of Asmodeus.
Were your powers capable of harming our attackers?
Right.
From the warp they come,
From the warp.
and with the power of the warp they can be punished again.
He met the Primarch's gaze for a moment, then looked
okay.
away.
Brother Emil is right, my liege. I have broken the oath I swore.
A grave crime, and one that I will be sure to prosecute properly when the current situation has been resolved.
The Lion looked at Nemiel.
There are two others of the Librarium aboard, Hasfael and Alberain. Bring them here.
This is a mistake, my liege. The abominations that attack us, these Nephilah, are a conjunction of sorceries. I swore an oath also to uphold the Edict of Nicaea. To unleash further sorcery will endanger us even more. Think again, my liege.
I have issued an order, Brother Nemiel.
One that I cannot follow.
My authority is absolute.
The Edict of Nicaea was issued by the Emperor. My liege, there is no higher authority.
Enough!
The Lion's roar was so loud it caused Corswain's autosensors to dampen his hearing, as if he were in proximity of an explosion. The Lion moved, and a split second later, a cracked, skull-faced helm was spinning through the dull, glowing lights of the Strategium, cutting a bloody arc through the air. Nemiel's headless corpse clattered to the floor as the lion held up his hand, pieces of ceramite embedded in the fingertips of his gore-spattered gauntlet. While the death of Nemiel left a lasting impression on the lion and his sons present, there were more pressing matters at hand. A greater demon of Zeech had...
Okay, so... we're gonna stop here? Because it sounds like he's about to go into some other stuff. So, what I'm understanding is... I'm trying to understand why it just happened. So, I'm just wrapping my brain around it. You have him angry about trying to take out this enemy using, I think he called them the Liberium. And the Liberium people are using warp power, I guess sorcery. Which this guy, forgot what his name is, the dude in the black armor, that I thought the armor looked really good, who was like, the Emperor made this rule, and we're breaking this rule. You just gotta stop, don't break that rule. And the other dude, Lion, loses his cool and takes his head off. I'm gonna assume there's gonna be a punishment for that, right? There's gotta be a repercussion for taking that dude's head off? Or is that like, it's okay? I'm going to assume that I'll find out here, hopefully, in the rest of this video. But for now, I think this is definitely where we're going to stop. I have tried to follow this as best I could. I think I'm a little confused. So feel free to clear it up. I'm just a bit of an airhead today. So I might have just not fully wrapped my brain around the information I was trying to absorb there. But, I want to say if you made it to this point in the video, as I always say, you're awesome and you rock. And let me know if you guys like this first Legion here, Lion and stuff. And if you're, you know, a fan of that and collect the minis, what was it that drawed you to them? What was the thing that made you go, that's my group, that's the one I'm collecting? But it is now that point in the video to say the magic words that YouTube loves me to say, which is if you like that video, leave a like and subscribe. My voice is a little rough. I think I'm going to go get some water. And yeah, I am looking forward to learning more about the lion as time goes on. So far, this has been pretty good. A lot is definitely going on. Shows why I don't like horse. I don't like Luther that much either. Just because he's petty and stuff. Now, I don't care if Conrad ends up being just as petty and as bad. He's cool to look at and has like a bat symbol. So, I'll let Emo Man have a pass. But, yeah, I think that will definitely be it for this video. So, until next time, you all take care. Bye-bye.